All right, so we have Sarah from Emory. So Sarah, can you tell us a bit about like what year you are in your program and what you're studying?
Yeah, wonderful. So my name is Sarah Blumenthal. I am a second year in Emory's neuroscience program. I work with Dr. Larry Young, and our research focuses on oxytocin, which is a neuropeptide hormone. And some people call it like the love hormone or the bonding hormone. It's really involved in social interactions, and we're in particular interested in how it works in what's called pair bonding. So how do you form close social and sexual bonds. And so we're interested in that. And I'm particularly interested in how oxytocin affects consoling behaviors. So I really like it. It's great work.
That's really cool. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but like you use a specific type of animal. So like,
Yes, I do. I use kind of a novel animal model. So a lot of people use like mice or rats, and my lab uses what are called prairie voles, which are kind of like chunky little mice. They are very cute, and they're interesting because they form monogamous pair bonds. So a male and a female will bond with each other, and then they will build a nest together, and they will co-parent together. And although they're not always sexually monogamous, they are monogamous socially with each other. And this is pretty rare in the rodent world. So it's really cool to get to study them and understand what's going on in their brain that causes them to be monogamous, whereas other rodent species are not monogamous. And so they're a really cool model to study, and they're really cute.
that sounds like the most adorable project.
I know. I get to make them fall in love. Just kidding. I don't actually do that, but in theory.
You're like a cupid scientist.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, okay, so do you have like a favorite brain area or like a favorite brain fact?
Yeah, okay. Well, my favorite brain area at the moment is the insular cortex because the insula is really important for empathy. It's an integration site of social and emotional information. And since my whole project is going to be focusing on consoling behaviors, so when one of the prairie voles is in distress, how does the other one choose to help out their fellow prairie vole? How do they choose to help and sort of cuddle them and make them feel better? So I'm really interested in the insula because in humans and in rodents, it's found to be really important for these behaviors and just for empathy in general. And I think that the world could use a little bit more empathy. So I'm excited to get to study that. So the insula is my brain area of choice at the moment.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited
Um,
about it.
so were you also a neuroscience major in undergrad, or did you study something else and then maneuver in your PhD?
Yeah, so I studied psychology in my undergrad, and I sort of toyed between whether I wanted to do research or become like a clinical psychologist. So I wasn't sure which route I wanted to do. And then my junior year of college, I got involved in research, both in like straight up psychology, human work, surveys, and things like that. But I also got involved in a behavioral neuroscience lab and fully fell in love with it and knew that that was what I was supposed to do. So I had minored in neuroscience, but didn't feel confident yet in going into neuroscience. And so I did my master's in psychology and got more behavioral neuroscience training, and then fully felt ready to tackle the field of neuroscience. And I'm now doing that here at Emory, and I'm really happy to be here.
That's a really interesting trajectory.
Yeah,
I think some people they believe you have to know what you're doing right off the bat, and that's not really true. Like you
no.
maneuver
I
whenever.
didn't have it. I honestly didn't. I didn't know when I was applying to PhD programs whether I was going to do a neuroscience or a psychology
Oh,
PhD.
wow.
Like at that level, I still was making decisions and choosing. And the more I thought about it, the more I knew that neuroscience is where I wanted to be. But you don't have to have it figured out. No one's telling you that. I mean, some people might be, but you don't have to have it figured it out. And if you do have it figured it out and you change your mind, that's also totally fine.
Mhm.
Everyone gets here in their own time.
I guess just kind of maneuvering from here,
Mhm.
what advice would you give maybe like a high school student, like any of these brain beat competitors, that if they're interested in neuroscience or just science in general, what type of advice would you give them?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say if I could go back in time to who I was as a freshman in college, so I know that might be a little bit far off for some of the Brain Bee students, but as a freshman in college, I really wish that I had gotten involved in research sooner. Because when I started my junior year, I only had a year and a half to do research, and research is kind of the long game. It takes a lot of time and patience, and so ultimately, I just wish that I had had more time in my undergrad to get research experience because I really loved it and didn't really seek it out until I was much older. I thought that was something that only older students do. And now that I'm in grad school, I see freshmen joining labs and working in them. So you're never too young to start working in a lab. Also, I'm sure that a lot of the labs in Atlanta would love to, have a meeting with you as a high school or middle school student and just talk to you about research. People love to talk about themselves and love to talk about research. And so they would be more than happy to meet with you. My advice would be to not be intimidated by any of the researchers or professors because they're just people and they want to make a connection just as much as you do. So if you're interested in someone's work, just reach out to them. They'd love to talk to you.
For sure. And there's no dumb questions.
No.
Uh,
I have realizations all the time that like maybe I should have figured out years ago, and I'm like, whoa, that's related to that. So it's never a dumb question. Everyone, there's so much information that it's a lot to keep track of.
well, thank you so much for your time.
Of
And
course,
I hope you had fun with your Brain Bee workshop this afternoon.
it
Uh,
was wonderful. It was so great. I love meeting everyone, and all the students are so driven and smart, and
you're so smart.
yeah, it's amazing. I was so impressed by them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye.